One of the biggest issues our world is dealing with is that of ourselves. 3.5 billion people live in cities, and this number is expected to increase by 2.5 billion by 2050. This rapid increase has left several aspects of the question of sustainable urbanization unchecked. One organization that has been warning us of the necessary cautionary measures is United Nations Habitat Program. Thus, in the spirit of the conference theme, it is my great pleasure to announce our keynote speaker, Mr. Matthew French, United Nations Habitat Representative in Kabul, Afghanistan. Mr. French, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Secretary General, distinguished guests, members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here today to deliver this keynote address. As Mr. President mentioned, my name is Matthew French, and actually I'm originally from New Zealand, the small little country at the end of the world. But actually my grandparents migrated to New Zealand, and they were from this wonderful country, the Netherlands. But I studied for my PhD in the UK, so maybe I sound a little bit British. And for this research, I lived in Argentina, working in the slums of Buenos Aires, trying to look at sustainable urbanization in the Latin American context. The more I see and the more I hear, I'm convinced that sustainable urbanization is perhaps one of the most pressing challenges of our generation. So for the last 5 years, I've been working with UN Habitat, initially in Kenya and now in Afghanistan. I'm lucky to have travelled to many places around the world and have seen firsthand the challenges and the serious problems that rapid urbanisation plays out. As I said, as has been mentioned, I'm currently working in Afghanistan, leading a team of over 700 capable, qualified and committed Afghan staff across 11 provinces in the country. It's a fantastic job and I feel extremely privileged to be in this position. And so today, I'd like to share with you some experiences from the Afghanistan context. But first, let's review. UN Habitat, as you may know, is celebrating its 40th birthday this year. It was formed at a special UN conference in 1976 in Vancouver in Canada. 20 years later, in 1996, we had the Habitat II conference. And the outcome of this was a resolution called the Habitat Agenda, which called on governments to very much use a people-centred approach to urbanisation. And actually later this year, in Quito in Ecuador, we have Habitat III, which again will set an agenda for the coming 2 decades to come. As has been mentioned already, we have the Sustainable Development Goals, and importantly, we have a standalone goal on sustainable urbanisation, SDG 11, to make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. And because this is a standalone goal, I think it very much shows and signals the importance of urban development as a key pillar of global development, peace and human rights. So it's within these broad frameworks that UN Habitat carries out its global work. But this is all very, high level. Let's see what's happening on the ground. So let me introduce you to this man. His name is Ahmad. As you can maybe see in the photo, he's had a pretty tough life. He is from Afghanistan. He was born in THIMUN province in northern Afghanistan. And he's seen over 30 years of war and conflict in Afghanistan. In 2009, Ahmad, he wasn't very happy with his life in Samandan province. There wasn't very good schools, the health clinics weren't very good, and security was also getting worse. So he moved to this place, to Kabul, the capital of Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Ahmad's story is not unique. Around the world, every day, thousands and thousands of men, women and children are moving to cities. They're moving to urban areas. And this is why towns and cities are expanding at such a rapid pace, especially in Africa and Asia. People see cities as hubs of opportunity, of personal development. And as has been mentioned, because of this, we're seeing an increasingly urban world. In 1970, just over a third of the population lived in cities. At the turn of the century, the year 2000, around about half of the population lived in cities. And projections show that by 2030, around about 60% will live in cities. This is a huge challenge, and it's also an unstoppable force. This is a photo from Kabul, not very far from Ahmad's house, and it shows you the implications of lack of forward planning of urban development in advance of growth. So there's key challenges that cut across all different cities and countries. The first and foremost is very much a lack of land and housing. Because we all want a home. We all want a place to go home to at the end of a long day. We want a place to call ours, that no matter what happens, we feel safe and we feel secure. But unfortunately for many people, this is not the reality. This is Ahmad's house. As you can see, it's a pretty precarious condition, living in what is essentially a tent. He doesn't own or even rent the land upon which he lives, and clearly there's very limited services like water, sanitation, or even proper toilets. But the worst thing is that every day Ahmad feels that powerful people, including maybe some people in the government, will come and evict him from his house, will come and tell him he needs to leave. He doesn't have what we call tenure security, the feeling that tomorrow he'll be able to stay there. Imagine this existence. Imagine waking up each morning not knowing if you'll be able to go to sleep in the same place that evening. And it's not that he wants to live in this house. He would happily occupy a formal, decent housing, but this option does not exist. So he has no other choice but to make ends meet. Another key challenge that cuts across many cities and countries is weak governance. Many countries and cities, they don't have the proper policies, laws and systems in place to manage urbanisation. And they also lack the management and human capacities to provide services to citizens and manage the city in a way that people have homes, jobs and real opportunities. Lastly, there's also the problem of mindsets. Most people see urbanisation as a problem. It's a problem. It's always talked about as a problem. They see something that needs to be stopped, or even worse, should be reversed. People say things like, Ahmad should return to his village. The city is not for people like Ahmad, people with no money. This, ladies and gentlemen, is clearly not right. It's not right because every human being, regardless of race, religion or economic level, has a set of fundamental human rights, including the right to free movement within their country of residence, the right to adequate housing, water, sanitation, and the right to work. Furthermore, rather than urbanisation as a problem, experience from the last decades shows that urbanisation can actually be a source of development. It can provide enormous opportunities, especially for women, such as this example of a skills training computer course in Kabul to empower women with transferable skills for employment, and as well youth. Because in Afghanistan, half the urban population is youth. And we see from this photo the famous Schicketanz in Afghanistan using the public space and streets as a way to claim their right to the city, as a way to say we're here and we want a voice in decision making. But what can be done? Many, many challenges. So what is UN Habitat doing in Afghanistan? Well, UN Habitat has been there for over 2 decades, working side by side with communities to advance stability and peace in one of the poorest and most insecure countries in the world. Our foundation, as you can see on this slide, is people. It's what we call the people's process, because we believe in the power of citizens to be a key part of the solution, especially in fragile countries with poor governance. The people's process, as you can see in this image, is about mobilising communities, electing them into community development councils that are actually elected by the people and function as a local governance mechanism to promote solidarity and collective action. As you can see here, this slide shows the process of action planning from the bottom up, engaging women as well as men and youth to identify their challenges and problems. Some of the things can be solved using local resources, because money is not always the problem. There's a whole lot of human and financial resources at the local level that just need to be coordinated to achieve some results. But we also often need external resources. And so we help them with projects such as this example of paving of streets, which has huge implications for health, accessibility, transport and environment. Water projects, obviously increasing people's access to sustainable sources of water, as well as, I mentioned, skills training, particularly of women. But as you see in this photo of Kandahar city in southern Afghanistan, the city is more than a collection of small communities. There's some larger issues which also need to be addressed. And so for this, we're working very closely with the Afghan government on a range of things. The first one is really exciting. It's, as you see here, teams of surveyors surveying every single house and parcel of land within the major Afghan cities. So for this, we use a systematic approach to survey all the parcels of land, and then the government can issue what we call occupancy certificates, kind of like a land title, so that Ahmad and people like Ahmad feel like they have some degree of tenure security. Also, the municipalities can collect property taxes from this information. So this is a good step forward for citizens and for the government. It also produces, as you see here, very clear land use maps of the existing situation. And this is essential in terms of urban planning, in terms of a whole range of dimensions of managing and governing a city. But this is a big job. So far, UN Habitat supported around 80,000 properties, and there's an estimated 900,000 properties in the whole Afghanistan, in the major cities. So we needed something quick that could give us key information, because when I ask you how many people live in Afghan cities, no one can really say the answer, because no one really knew before. And I know what you may be thinking, how, if you pretend that you're, for example, the mayor of Kabul, how can you plan and manage a city if you don't know if your population is 7 million or 3.5 million? The fact is, it's very difficult. And so we supported to do a thorough assessment of all of the major cities in Afghanistan. And we used a pretty innovative methodology. So you can see here this high-resolution satellite image, very up-to-date, which we can see every single house and every single land use from this, industrial, commercial, residential, etc. We had a great team of qualified young Afghans, so you can see in the top left image, who sat literally for hours and hours, clicking, counting every single house in all of those major cities. And you can see in the middle picture at the top, those dots are for every house. We also had a team of surveyors, surveying the existing land use, and we engaged local communities through the bottom images you can see through the field survey and mapping and checking the data. And the result was that we had State of Afghan Cities 2015, which provided all of the key information around the major cities in Afghanistan. This was extremely cost effective, it was extremely quick, and now we have a thorough baseline, which is one of the key starting points for improved urban management. The report was launched officially by His Excellency the President Ashraf Ghani, which shows again the political commitment to harness urbanisation as a driver of development in Afghanistan. To conclude, let us quickly think again about Ahmad. For how long will people like Ahmad in cities in Africa and Asia, Latin America and others continue to live on the margins of society? What will the future of the city in which his children live and his children's children? Will they be able to raise their families in cities that are inclusive with proper services and opportunities? Or, unfortunately, will the unplanned, chaotic urbanisation get even worse? To achieve a better urban future, ladies and gentlemen, we need strong commitment from governments to promoting and managing urbanisation. Most importantly, a better urban future requires the full and the meaningful participation of all citizens, especially the poorest and most excluded, women and of course youth, groups that are too often overlooked. Let me thank you once again for your attention and thank the organisers for a fantastic conference. I have not participated before and I am slightly jealous. I didn't participate when I was younger, but I'm really impressed and I'm just absolutely blown away by the commitment, the professionalism and the skills that all of you are developing. And I have a very positive view of the UN and what the UN can do with young leaders like yourselves. So thank you very much.